wasn't broken, I just woke up.
I need to tell you about the worst mistake I ever made. And it wasn't getting hit by that truck. It was falling in love. My name isn't really David Carter, but that's what I'd been calling myself for the past 3 years. Before that, I was someone else entirely. For 15 years, I worked for an organization that doesn't officially exist, doing things I can't talk about in places that aren't on any map. We called ourselves Shadow Directive, and if you've heard of us, we've failed at our job. But 3 years ago, I made a choice that operatives like me aren't supposed to make. I fell in love with my cover identity. The wife, the kids, the crappy apartment, and the night shift security guard job at a downtown office building. It had all been fake at first, just deep cover while I was between assignments. Then it became real. Too real. Rebecca, my wife, was supposed to be just part of the cover. We'd been married for almost 15 years, had twin teenagers, Sophia and Tyler, both 14. We struggled financially because, well, security guards don't make much money. Rebecca worked part-time as a waitress at a local diner, always complaining about the tips. Our life was ordinary, boring, and I'd actually grown to love it. That's why I didn't want to see what was right in front of my face. For about a month before everything went to hell, Rebecca had been different. She started wearing makeup to her shifts, coming home later with stories about slow nights that didn't match her suddenly cheerful mood. She was always on her phone, typing quick messages with a secretive smile. My training had taught me to spot deception from a mile away, but I didn't want to believe it. I told myself maybe she was planning something for our anniversary. Maybe I was just being paranoid. I wasn't paranoid enough. One night, I was helping Sophia with algebra homework when I noticed Rebecca's phone buzzing on the table. The preview showed a message from someone named Ryan M. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Hotel is booked." Told the wife I'm working late again. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak exactly. I'd built walls around my emotions during my years with Shadow Directive, but a familiar calculating anger, the kind that had made me effective at my job. I memorized the number and pretended I hadn't seen anything. That night after Rebecca took her shower, I held her close and told her I loved her. She said it back, but the warmth was gone from her voice. As she fell asleep, I stared at the ceiling and made plans. Not the kind of plans the old me would have made, though. I was going to try to save my marriage, confront the other guy, appeal to Rebecca's better nature. I still believed in redemption. That belief died 3 days later in a hospital bed. The rain was coming down hard that morning as I walked home from a double shift. I'd covered for a sick coworker and I was exhausted. I never saw the truck coming. One second I was crossing the intersection near our apartment complex. The next I was flying through the air. I hit the pavement hard and skidded into a parked car. Here's the thing though. The impact was brutal. I definitely had broken ribs, a concussion, and my left leg was shattered, but I wasn't unconscious. Years of training had taught me to control my breathing, to stay still when injured, to assess the situation before revealing my condition. Some instinct told me to stay quiet and observe. So when the paramedics arrived and loaded me onto a stretcher, I let them think I was out cold. At the hospital, they wheeled me into a trauma bay and started cutting off my clothes, hooking me up to monitors. Through barely cracked eyelids, I watched them work. Then I heard Rebecca's voice in the hallway asking the doctor about my condition. "He's completely unconscious," the doctor told her. "The impact was severe. Could be hours or days before we know if he'll wake up." How long before we know? Rebecca's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Through the gap in the curtain, I could see her standing with the twins. She didn't look worried, she looked calculating. "Kids, go get something from the vending machines," she told Sophia and Tyler, handing them bills. "Take your time." Once they were gone, Rebecca pulled out her phone and made a call that shattered my entire world. "Ryan? Yeah, it's me." "No, he's unconscious. The doctors don't know when he'll wake up." A pause. "This is our chance. We can clean out the apartment tonight, take everything." I felt ice water in my veins. "Yes, the kids too," she continued. "They'll be better off anyway." When the twins came back, Rebecca had composed herself into the concerned wife act. But then she said something that destroyed any remaining illusions I had. "Listen carefully," she told Sophia and Tyler in a low voice. "Your father, he's not the man we thought he was. He's a broke, useless dreamer, always talking about how things would get better, but look where we are." "Mom, that's mean," Tyler protested. "Dad's hurt. Your dad is a loser, Tyler. Now we can finally start a new life with your second dad." Ryan has been taking care of us for months. He has money, a real job, a nice house. We can have everything we deserve. I watched my daughter start crying softly while Tyler just stared at his mother in shock. But what about Dad? Sophia whispered. Your dad made his choices. We're making ours. Ryan's already started moving our things to his place. Tonight, when visiting hours are over, we're packing the rest and leaving. We're just going to leave him here? Tyler's voice cracked. He'll be fine. The hospital will take care of him. And if he wakes up, Rebecca shrugged. Maybe he'll finally understand that some people are meant for better things. The next hour was torture. I watched Rebecca perform for the nurses while texting constantly. The twins sat in uncomfortable silence, processing what their mother had revealed. When visiting hours ended, they left. But I knew they weren't going home. They were going to pack up my life and move in with Ryan Mitchell, whose name I'd already memorized from Rebecca's phone. After they left, a young nurse named Lisa Chen came to check my monitors. Well, how long have you been awake? She asked softly. I saw your eyes move during visiting hours. I asked for water. My throat was so dry. Lisa got me some ice chips. I'm sorry, and she said, I couldn't help but overhear some of what your wife said. That was brutal. I pulled back my hospital gown to reveal a tattoo on my chest, a skull wrapped in barbed wire with the letters SD underneath. It was the mark of Shadow Directive. Lisa's eyes went wide. You're military? Army medic, 2 tours in Middle East, she said, showing me her own tattoo, a phoenix on her arm. I was something else, I said quietly. I was a ghost until I chose to become David Carter, security guard and family man. And now? I stared at the ceiling. Now David Carter is dead, and ghosts don't forgive. Lisa had seen enough during her military service to understand. How bad are your injuries really? Broken ribs, broken leg, concussion. Nothing that won't heal. I've had worse. What are you planning? I looked at her with eyes that had gone completely cold. My wife and her lover just stole my children and everything I own. I'm going to destroy them. Completely, utterly, in ways they can't imagine. Lisa knew that tone. What do you need from me? Information, for now. I hesitated. What's your security clearance? Had secret clearance. Why? Because in about 6 hours, this place is going to be crawling with people asking questions about me. My cover identity is about to be blown. She looked confused, so I explained. This tattoo isn't just a marking. It's linked to a biometric database. The moment the hospital ran my blood work and fingerprints, it triggered alerts and systems most people don't know exist. Sure enough, within an hour, Lisa's supervisor pulled her aside. When she came back, her face was pale. The FBI is sending agents. Something about your identity being flagged in a federal database. Right on schedule, I said. 2 agents arrived. A woman in her 40s with steel gray hair and a younger guy who looked fresh out of training. Mr. Carter, the woman said, or would you prefer we use your real name? David will do fine, and you are? Agent Sarah Crawford, FBI. This is Agent Kevin Torres. Your cover identity was compromised when you entered the federal medical database. There are people looking for you. We're prepared to offer you full extraction, new identity, relocation. I have a better offer, I said. I want back in. Full reinstatement to Shadow Directive, access to resources, operational support. That's impossible. You've been out for 3 years. Someone ran my biometrics through the system deliberately. Someone who wanted you to find me, which means someone knows exactly who and where I am. Someone wanted me out of commission before making their move. The agents exchanged glances. Who would do that? Someone who knows what I'm capable of. Someone who wanted to neutralize me before they made their play. I met Crawford's eyes. My wife and her lover just made the biggest mistake of their lives. They think they're stealing from a security guard. They don't know they just declared war on a ghost. After some discussion, Crawford came back the next day with a tablet. Your reinstatement has been approved. Provisional status? What changed your minds? We ran a background check on your wife's boyfriend, Ryan Mitchell, 34, assistant manager at construction company. Divorced, gambling problem, $60,000 in debt to some very unpleasant people. She showed me photos. Ryan was average height, soft around the middle, thinning hair, not exactly criminal mastermind material. But he's desperate, Crawford continued, and his debt mysteriously disappeared 6 months ago, right when he started his affair with your wife. Your accident happens 3 days after your cover identity starts showing activity in federal databases. Someone's been watching you. Someone paid off his debts in exchange for information about me. We think so. He received $75,000 2 weeks ago, deposited into a Cayman Islands account. I nodded, already thinking ahead. I need to know everything about Ryan, his routines, his weaknesses, his fears. Already in progress. What else? I need to know where my family is. They're at Ryan's house in Westfield Heights. Your wife cleared out your joint account, all $2,800, and took most of your possessions, including your dog, Max. They'd taken my 8-year-old German Shepherd. That cold rage building inside me got colder. The children are enrolled in new schools starting Monday. Your wife has filed paperwork to change their last names to Mitchell. She's moving fast. Crawford showed me another screen. Your phone has received 71 calls from her number in the last 18 hours, 23 voicemails, probably trying to cover her tracks. Don't monitor her communications yet. I don't want to spook her. What's your operational objective? I stared out the window at the city beyond. Total destruction. I want Ryan ruined financially, socially, psychologically. I want Rebecca to understand exactly what she threw away. And I want them both to know they destroyed their lives the moment they decided to betray me. And your children. They're old enough to have made their choice. They went along with abandoning their father for a better lifestyle. They'll live with the consequences. That's harsh. That's realistic. Crawford made notes. What do you need? Access to Shadow Directive's financial resources, a secure laptop, surveillance on the house? How much financial access? Enough to make expensive problems disappear and create new ones for the right people. Crawford nodded. Anything else? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Send flowers to Rebecca from her loving husband, who's fighting for his life. I want her to feel guilty. Guilty people make mistakes. Over the next few days, I built psychological profiles of my targets. Ryan was weak, driven by greed and fear. Rebecca was more calculating but fundamentally selfish. The key would be to turn them against each other. I had Ryan's creditors, the dangerous ones he thought were paid off, receive anonymous tips about his new address and improved situation. The IRS got reports about unreported income. His ex-wife received photos of him living with another woman and her kids. But, most importantly, Ryan started receiving expensive deliveries, cases of wine, luxury electronics, all with cards reading, "Thanks for a job well done." I wanted him terrified. When expensive gifts show up with cryptic messages, he'd assume his mysterious benefactor was checking up on him. Paranoid people make mistakes. For Rebecca, I created fake social media accounts and started commenting on her posts, always supportive, but with questions. Wow, things improved fast for you. How did you manage that? Your husband must be doing so much better to afford all this. Is he out of the hospital yet? She'd been telling people I was still unconscious, that she was staying with a friend. The contradiction between that story and her obvious upgrade in lifestyle would create pressure. Then I had another bouquet delivered to the house. To Rebecca and Ryan, wishing you both exactly what you deserve. A concerned friend. That night, Crawford called. We have a problem. Ryan received a visitor this afternoon, someone who doesn't appear in any databases, male, approximately 40, drove a car with diplomatic plates. Ryan looked shaken when he left. Someone higher up is getting nervous. Increase surveillance. I want to know everyone who goes in or out. After I was discharged, I went back to the empty apartment. Rebecca and Ryan had been thorough, taking everything of value, but they'd missed what I was really looking for. Behind a panel in the bedroom closet, I retrieved a military-grade communication device connected to Shadow Directive's global network. I've been reporting to Shadow Directive for 3 years, I told Crawford. Monthly status updates. They knew everything about David Carter's life. The device had multiple priority messages waiting. Among them was a surveillance report filed 3 days ago describing the successful neutralization of Target Lazarus, my code name. The report was filed by Agent Designation Raven. Someone inside Shadow Directive has been running an operation against me for almost a year. I said Ryan was just the trigger man. The real enemy is someone I trusted. Within hours, I'd transformed the empty apartment into a command center. Shadow Directive couriered an equipment that officially didn't exist. By evening, I had complete surveillance of Ryan's house. I could hear conversations in real time, see through any camera, monitor all communication. What I discovered was satisfying. Rebecca and Ryan were already fighting. Can't keep spending money like this, Ryan. Where's it all coming from? Bonus payments from the construction project. Don't ask questions about things that benefit you. And what about these deliveries? The wine, the electronics, the weird thank you notes? Probably corporate gifts. Companies don't send bottles of wine that cost $500 each. Someone knows what you did. Ryan went pale. Keep your voice down. The kids might hear. The kids are asking questions too. Sophia wants to know why we haven't heard from the hospital. Tyler keeps asking when we're visiting his father. Tell them he's still unconscious. For 3 weeks, what if he wakes up? He's not going to wake up, Ryan said quietly. The people I work with, they're thorough. David Carter's accident was just the beginning. Rebecca stopped pacing. What do you mean? I mean, if he becomes a problem, it'll be handled permanently. Who are these people, Ryan? Ryan looked around nervously. People you don't want to meet. People who could make us disappear if we become inconvenient. We took their money, we did their job, and now we keep quiet and enjoy the benefits. And if David wakes up, then we hope our friends are as efficient at cleanup as they were at setup. I turned off the feed. Ryan had just confessed to conspiracy and attempted homicide and confirmed other players were involved. I sent instructions to Crawford. Tomorrow, Ryan would receive a visit from someone claiming to represent his employers, someone who would make it clear his usefulness was expiring. For Rebecca, I composed an email from an anonymous account. Mrs. Carter, you may not know me, but I knew your husband, the real David Carter. You have no idea what you've awakened or who is coming for you. Get out now while you can. A friend. I scheduled it for 3 a.m. when Rebecca would be alone with her paranoia. By morning, she'd be asking Ryan questions he couldn't answer, without revealing everything. At 3:47 a.m., through the hacked security cameras, I watched Rebecca jolt awake to her phone buzzing. She read the email 3 times, her face going pale. Then she woke up Ryan. Dan, we have a problem. Ryan read the email, his face cycling through confusion, fear, and anger. This is probably by just some crank. How would a newspaper reader know there was a real David Carter? How would they have my email? I'd positioned this perfectly. Rebecca was already suspicious from the gifts. The mysterious visitor had shaken Ryan. Now, with an anonymous warning, the pressure was unbearable. I told you everything you need to know, Ryan said, sweating. No, you didn't. You told me David was a security guard who couldn't provide. But this email talks about the real David Carter. Who's the real David Carter? I could see Ryan's internal struggle. He knew more than he'd told Rebecca. Look, maybe your husband wasn't what he seemed. Maybe he had secrets, debts, problems. That doesn't change anything. It changes everything. If David is dangerous, if he has enemies, then we're in danger. The kids are in danger. I decided to escalate. Ryan's phone started receiving texts from unknown numbers. Payment overdue. Need to discuss terms. Meet tomorrow. Boss wants to see you. Problem with Carter situation. Cleanup crew on standby. The house's smart home system started malfunctioning. Lights flickering, security system arming randomly, temperature cycling. A black sedan with tinted windows pulled up across the street. The effect was immediate. Ryan's phone buzzed continuously. Each message made him more agitated. Ryan, what are those messages? Who wants to see you? What cleanup crew? These aren't supposed to be happening now. There were supposed to be safeguards. I was told if I kept quiet, everything would be handled cleanly. Handled how? What did you do? Before Ryan could answer, Rebecca noticed the sedan. There's a car out there. Ryan looked and went white. God, they're here. Who's here? The people I work for. The ones who paid me to... He couldn't finish. Paid you to what? I wasn't supposed to hurt him. Just provide information. His routines when he'd be vulnerable. I needed the money. These people don't take no for an answer. They said they just wanted to neutralize him temporarily. Neutralize him? You tried to have my husband eliminated? I thought it would just put him in the hospital, give us time to disappear. But now these messages, I think they're planning to finish the job. Rebecca backed away, horrified. You're a monster. You made me part of a homicide conspiracy. It was time for me to reveal myself. I activated the house's intercom and spoke. Hello, Rebecca. Hello, Ryan. They froze, looking around wildly. You're probably wondering how I can talk to you right now, considering you left me unconscious in a hospital bed 3 weeks ago. David? Rebecca's voice was barely a whisper. Surprise? I've been awake the whole time. I heard every word you said in that hospital room. I watched you pack up my life. I listened to you tell our children their father was a useless dreamer. Ryan was hyperventilating. This isn't possible. You're supposed to be dead. Is that what your employers promised? That David Carter would have a convenient accident and never wake up? David, please, Rebecca said, tears streaming. I can explain. Explain how you sold out your husband and children for a better lifestyle. I'm fascinated. The figure at the door knocked insistently. Oh, and Ryan, that's not one of your employers. That's an FBI agent. Attempting to homicide a federal operative is serious, especially when that operative has been awake and recording everything for weeks. Ryan collapsed into a chair. David, Rebecca said desperately, I didn't know. I thought we were just leaving you for a better life. You thought you were abandoning an unconscious man who might never wake up. You thought you were stealing from someone who couldn't stop you. What do you want? I smiled, though they couldn't see me. I want you to understand this is just the beginning. Everything you gained, I'm taking away. Everyone you trusted will betray you. And when you have nothing left, when you're completely alone, I want you to remember this all started because you chose greed over love. The FBI is going to arrest Ryan for conspiracy and attempted homicide. You're going to lose this house, this lifestyle, everything. And our children are going to learn exactly what kind of people their mother chose over their father. Please, my name isn't David, Rebecca. David Carter was a cover identity, a role I played for 3 years because I thought I'd found something worth protecting. But David Carter is dead. You eliminated him in that hospital room. Then who are you? Someone you should never have crossed. Someone who doesn't forgive. Someone who always collects his debts. Agent Torres entered with backup minutes later, finding Rebecca sobbing and Ryan catatonic. Neither resisted arrest. 2 hours later, I was in a federal facility, sitting across from Ryan in an interrogation room. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. Hello, Ryan. He couldn't meet my eyes. I thought you were dead. A lot of people thought that. I'm curious who told you that would be the case. I can't. They'll eliminate me. Ryan, look at me. He raised his eyes reluctantly. The people who hired you were planning to eliminate you anyway. You were always a liability. The only reason you're breathing is because you're in federal custody. I spread photographs across the table, showing him meeting various people. We know about every contact. What we don't know is who's at the top. I never met anyone important, just middle management types. But someone gave the orders. Ryan was sweating. All I know is someone was willing to pay a lot to have you taken out. They said you were dangerous, a threat to national security. And you believed them? I needed the money. My debts, my ex-wife, child support. I was drowning when they offered to clear everything. I studied his face, reading truth from deception. He was telling the truth about his limited knowledge, but there was something else. What aren't you telling me, Ryan? There was something they said about you, about your real identity. They said David Carter wasn't your real name. They said you were someone important with access to sensitive information. They made it sound like you were a traitor. Cold realization hit me. Someone had marked me as a security risk, possibly a double agent. Did they mention Shadow Directive? Ryan's eyes widened. How do you know that name? Answer the question. They said you were a rogue agent from Shadow Directive. Said you'd gone native, compromised your mission by getting attached to your cover identity. The pieces clicked. Someone within Shadow Directive had decided I'd become a liability. Not because I'd blown cover, but because I'd chosen to make it real. Who was your primary contact? A woman, mid-40s, professional-looking. She said to call her Raven. My blood turned to ice. Agent Sarah Crawford had been using the codename Raven in Shadow Directive communications. The same Crawford who'd authorized my reinstatement, who knew every detail of my operation. Describe her. About 5'8", gray hair, always wore dark suits, had a scar on her left hand like from a burn. It was definitely Crawford, which meant everything since my accident had been orchestrated. She'd been playing both sides, using me to clean up loose ends of her own operation. Ryan, the woman who hired you is the FBI agent running this investigation. She's playing all of us. She arranged your payments, then arranged your arrest. She's going to eliminate everyone who can connect her to this. Ryan stared in confusion. That's impossible. She's consolidating assets, preparing to eliminate witnesses. And my wife is next. I stood and walked to the door. Agent Torres, where is Crawford right now? Torres entered. She said she was heading back to the field office. And where's Rebecca? Same facility. Crawford is conducting her interview personally. Crawford was consolidating, preparing to eliminate witnesses. Despite everything, Rebecca was still the mother of my children. I wasn't ready to let Crawford homicide her. Kevin, Crawford is the source of this operation. She's been running both sides. Torres's hand moved toward his weapon instinctively. That's serious. Check the timeline. When did Crawford first contact Shadow Directive about reactivating me? I guarantee it was within hours of my accident, before any alerts would have triggered naturally. I could see Torres processing, his training warring with loyalty. She knew about my accident before official reports. She had agents ready immediately. She had a cover story prepared. Torres was quiet, then spoke into his radio. I need the location of Crawford and prisoner Rebecca Carter. The response crackled back. Crawford signed out prisoner Carter 20 minutes ago for a transport to secondary facility. Which facility? No facility logged. Crawford said she was handling transport personally. Torres and I looked at each other. She's going to eliminate her, Ryan said quietly. I was already moving. Kevin, how fast can you get me out of here? You're not going anywhere. I'm the only person who can stop Crawford before she completes her cleanup. If you don't help me, you'll be explaining to a congressional committee how you let a rogue agent homicide witnesses. Torres was quiet, then made his decision. What do you need? My gear, transportation, and a way to track Crawford's vehicle. Within 40 minutes, I was equipped and mobile, tracking Crawford through the city. The signal led to an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. Backup is 20 minutes out, Torres said through my earpiece. 20 minutes is too long, I replied, studying the building. I count 2 vehicles, Crawford's sedan and a black SUV. At least 3 people inside. David, wait for backup. With all respect, Agent Torres, you're talking to someone who spent 15 years eliminating people better armed than Sarah Crawford. I approached using techniques I'd perfected in dozens of operations. Within minutes, I was inside the warehouse, moving through ventilation ducts until I could observe the main floor. Crawford stood over Rebecca, who was bound to a chair. 2 operatives flanked the area, professionals based on positioning. They weren't FBI. They were private contractors. Mrs. Carter, Crawford was saying, this isn't personal. You're simply a loose end. My children will ask questions. Your children think you ran away with your boyfriend. As far as anyone knows, Rebecca Carter disappeared with Ryan Mitchell when they realized their crime was discovered. What crime? I didn't know Ryan was involved in anything illegal. Conspiracy to commit homicide? Whether you knew details or not, you participated willingly. I positioned myself above them, calculating angles. 3 targets, all armed. 1 civilian to protect. I'd handled worse odds. The irony, Crawford continued, is that your husband thinks I'm trying to save you. He has no idea I've been orchestrating this from the beginning. Why target David? He went soft. He chose sentiment over duty. Your husband is a butcher who's eliminated more than 30 people, but then he made the mistake of falling in love with his cover identity. He chose you and your children over his duty. That made him a security risk. So you tried to have him eliminated. I tried to have David Carter eliminated so the operative could be extracted and reassigned. But your husband refused extraction 3 years ago. He wanted to play house. I'd heard enough. I dropped silently behind one of the contractors, my knife across his throat before he could react. Nobody moves, I said quietly. The second contractor spun toward me, but I was already moving. My knife flew in a perfect arc, burying in his shoulder. My suppressed pistol was out, aimed at Crawford. Hello, Sarah. Crawford smiled. Agent Carter, or should I say Operator Lazarus? You can call me the last person you'll ever see. Dramatic, but not accurate. She nodded slightly, and I heard weapons being cocked behind me. You didn't think I'd come with just 2 contractors? There are 6 more positioned throughout this warehouse. They all have clear shots at your wife. Even if that's true, you'll be dead before they fire. And then they'll eliminate your wife. Is that what you want? I was quiet, running scenarios. Then I smiled. Sarah, you made the same mistake everyone else made. You assumed I still cared about Rebecca Carter. Confusion crossed Crawford's face. You came here to save her. I came here to eliminate you. Rebecca is incidental. My tone was utterly cold. When my wife abandoned me in that hospital, when she told our children I was useless, when she stole everything and ran off with her boyfriend, she stopped being someone I loved. She became just another target. Rebecca's eyes widened in horror. "You're bluffing," Crawford said uncertainly. "Am I? 3 weeks ago, maybe, but the David Carter who would have died to save his family died in that hospital room. What you're facing now is what Shadow Directive trained me to be, a weapon without mercy." I shifted my aim, pointing at Rebecca instead of Crawford. "So here's what's going to happen, Sarah. You call off your contractors and surrender. Or I eliminate my wife myself, eliminating your leverage and leaving me free to hunt down everyone involved." "David, no," Rebecca screamed. "Please." "You knew enough," I said without looking at her. "You knew you were betraying someone who loved you. You knew you were abandoning someone helpless. You knew you were choosing greed over loyalty." I turned back to Crawford. "Your choice, Sarah. Surrender or watch me remove your advantage and come for you." Crawford stared at me, trying to read if I was bluffing. What she saw made her decision. "Stand down," she called. "All units, stand down." I kept my weapon trained on Rebecca as I spoke into my earpiece. "Torres, I need that backup now." "Already en route, 2 minutes out." When armed agents swarmed the warehouse, moments later, they took Crawford and her contractors into custody. "What happens now?" Rebecca asked, as they placed her in handcuffs. I looked at her one final time, my expression completely without recognition. "Now you disappear, all of you. Ryan will spend his life in federal prison. Crawford will face treason charges, and you'll face charges as an accessory. But the kids will learn that actions have consequences, that loyalty matters, that some betrayals can never be forgiven." As agents led Rebecca away, she called back desperately, "David, please, I love you." I didn't respond. I stood in the empty warehouse, surrounded by the aftermath of an operation that had cost me everything I thought I wanted. Torres approached carefully. "You okay?" "I'm exactly what I've always been. I just forgot for a while." "What's next?" Shadow Directive offered me a choice. New identity, new assignment, clean slate. Or return to my cover identity and try to rebuild. Which are you choosing? I stepped out into the night air, breathing deeply as the cold settled into my lungs like an old friend. The alley behind the warehouse was silent except for the hum of distant traffic and the faint rattle of a loose metal sign banging in the wind. I let the darkness wrap around me, steadying the chaos inside. David Carter was a weakness, I said to no one, to everyone, to the version of myself I'd just buried, a ghost who forgot he was supposed to be dead. I lifted my eyes to the sky, where the stars struggled to fight through the city's sickly glow. For a moment, they reminded me of everything I'd once hoped for: quiet nights, a home, the sound of my kids laughing in a room filled with sunlight. Then the memory flickered out like a dying bulb. "I'm going back to being what I do best," I whispered, the decision settling heavy but certain. A weapon without attachments. A ghost who remembers the living are just targets. David Carter had died in a hospital bed 3 weeks ago, heart-stopping, breath fading, while the people who claimed to love him most stood around pretending to mourn. They'd signed the papers, nodded at the doctors, and walked away relieved. They'd eliminated him long before his pulse flatlined. What walked out of that warehouse wasn't David Carter anymore. It was something sharper, colder, something that had crawled through betrayal and come out the other side with its humanity stripped clean. A ghost with nothing left to lose and absolutely no reason to show mercy. The living had betrayed me for the last time. I could almost feel the final thread snap as I walked down the street, leaving behind the last fragments of a life I'd spent years trying to earn. 6 months later, I was halfway around the world, moving under a different name, on an assignment I can't discuss. Not because I'm unwilling, but because the wrong ears listening could turn continents into graveyards. The work was familiar. Surveillance, extraction, quiet violence when necessary, routine, efficient. I didn't think about Rebecca anymore. Her forced tears, her trembling confessions, the lies she fed me like poison over breakfast. I didn't think about the twins either, though sometimes their laughter echoed in my dreams like ghosts of a different kind. That life felt like something written in someone else's journal, in handwriting I barely recognized. Someone else's story. Someone else's dream. Now I'm exactly what I was always meant to be. A shadow threaded between borders, a whisper moving across rooftops, a ghost slipping through the cracks of the world. I don't need closure. I don't need forgiveness. Ghosts don't carry those burdens. I move through the darkness doing what ghosts do best, watching, waiting, striking when the moment demands it. And for the first time in a long time, maybe ever, I'm finally at peace with it.